Hello and welcome back to the 2025 Speedrun Summit here in Urban Arts headquarters in New York City. I am Warning Track, and we're going to do something just a little bit different here. We have been talking about urban arts. We've been raising money for urban arts for years, and since we're in urban arts, we thought, why don't we talk to someone from urban arts? This is Rich. Rich, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Richard Morin, Rich. I am the Director of Corporate Partnerships here at Urban Arts, or the fundraising guy, as it were. I've worked here for 3 years now. I think some of you may have seen me on the last stream in April.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back.
That's right. You were on with a couple of the students. We kind of did it all in one segment. We thought that went so well. That was so interesting. And I could tell the viewers were really excited to see more about this organization that they just hear about in little sound bites here and there. And we thought, why don't we do the students one day, and we'll do someone from the organization proper the next, so we can kind of get into it a little bit. The showcase was yesterday. A lot of fun. We got to see like a senior student project come together.
Yeah, it was so great. So Mohammed and Amelie, who are alumni of our program, one of the things we do is we try to give continuing opportunities to our alumni so that they don't just go through 3 or 4 years of this program and then we say, goodbye, good luck.
Yeah,
okay,
go out into the world.
Go out into the world. We try to offer them not only opportunities like this, but also paid opportunities, which helps with college persistence, which is really important to us.
So we say various things to describe the organization. We usually only have a few seconds, right? So we need to condense them into like little taglines, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is that Urban Arts teaches students, underprivileged students, the art and science of game design. That gives people an idea of what happens. It's a good little summary when we just have a few seconds, but we have more than a few seconds now. So if someone applies to your program and they get accepted and they come in, what happens then? What does it look like the first year, the second year? Like, what happens on like a day-to-day basis for someone that gets into this program?
Yeah, absolutely. So right here, we're at Urban Arts in New York City. This is what we call our Game Academy. And this primarily functions as an after-school program. And so students come every Tuesday and Thursday after class, after regular schools stop. So they've already had a full day. They're coming here to learn game design.
That's a lot of work.
Then they're coming on Saturdays. So typically students will start with us around either their freshman year or sophomore year of high school. They'll come in, they will do what's called our year one programming, or core, where they learn the core principles of game design,
of course,
2D design, animation, art, narrative, storytelling, things like that. And then as they progress through our programming, their junior year, they go into our advanced courses. They might learn 3D art, some more advanced coding, the Unity engine.
You can't escape the Unity engine.
Exactly.
If you want to be
It's
practical, let's be real.
And then eventually their senior year, they're in our studio program, and that's where they make full video games from start to finish as a studio team. So they act as sort of an indie studio. They have a head of narrative.
It's bigger than a lot of indie studios, 10 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they finish, and then that game gets to go into their college portfolio. And so they can spend anywhere from 3 to 4 years with us, graduate, and then hopefully we help them on to the next step, which is college.
That's incredible. That's one of my favorite things about the program. When I heard it, that's when I was sold. You know, when I heard that you do a little simulacrum of a studio, I was like, that's perfect. It's so much better than just theory, right?
Right, exactly. So you're only seeing like this piece of the office here, but over on the other side, we have a full sound booth where students make their own soundtracks for their games. We have all the tech, everything they need to make these games all over. We have the entire floor of this office. It's really cool.
There's like a giant printer back there I saw too.
There's
that
a 3D
thing looks
printer.
Wild.
We have VR headsets. We have gaming chairs, gaming laptops, really everything they need, and everything is donated, which is great.
Wow.
And if anyone out there is feeling lucky, feeling like they
got a 3D printer you're not using.
Yeah.
People with 3D printers, in my experience, use them a lot.
Yeah.
So there is all this tech, but just a little personal thing. I ran into one of the students yesterday just by chance, and coming in on a Saturday, like you said, and they were just in the kitchen area at the table, and they were just using crayons on a piece of paper, and it was like right next to the giant printer down the hall, and I thought, that says it all, doesn't it, right? The art and the science, it was there, but at its core, like you were saying, it is just art. You start them there, and then you give them all the tools they need.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of students come to us as artists and don't necessarily have the tech background, but that's okay. We'll teach them coding and programming. We'll teach them Unity. We'll teach them all the tech aspects they want. But at the end of the day, game design is a creative field. It's an artistic field. And so we find a lot of our students come to us with that base and with that sort of love and creativity.
So we talked about this a little bit yesterday about the kind of hands-on approach that you use with your students. Obviously, you have to choose whether to accept applications. There's only so much room or whatever. But the upside of that, I assume, is that everything is catered, personalized in a way that you might not find in other programs.
Yeah, exactly. Every student here has one-on-one FaceTime with our teachers. Most public schools in New York City, you're looking like guidance counselors have a 300 to 1 ratio.
That's nuts, yeah.
Every single student gets one-on-one time here with our director of post-secondary success, helping them with college applications. Our class sizes are only around like 30 to 40.
That's pretty good.
And then
That's
we also have
good.
additional programming. So if students want, more learning opportunities, they can come both in the summer. And then we have a spring break intensive, which is crazy to think that these students, there's nothing bringing them here.
Yeah.
It's a free program. They vote with their feet. They're coming on the summer. They're coming during spring break. They're coming on Saturdays. They're coming after school. And it just shows you sort of really the passion and dedication that these kids have.
Dedication is exactly the word I was thinking of, that they're taking up. I mean, kids love their free time. I love my free time too,
Yeah.
To want to use it on this means, by definition, you're going to get the most dedicated kids here because
Exactly.
they're here in the first place.
Yeah.
Whereas if it were just a replacement for school, it'd be something else. It would be like a routine thing, a rote thing. Oh, fantastic. Well, when we talked a little bit last time, you talked about like 4 or 5 year plans, expansion into other states. Where's that at? What's your goal? How you feel about it so far?
Yeah, so here, what we do here at Urban Arts at the Game Academy is sort of like our R&D lab. And so we take what goes on here and what's successful, and we write it into curriculum that can then be adopted into schools and taught to teachers nationwide. We're in 13 schools now.
Okay.
In the next 5 years, we're working on a $50 million campaign, and we want to be in 50 states.
Ooh,
I think we
I like
can
the
do
big.
it.
I like the big swing though.
Yeah, it's a big swing, but it means we have to find the aspects of our program that are scalable. And that is the curriculum piece, and that is taking what works here and giving those tools to teachers in their comp sci classrooms, and then letting them sort of roll with it. So we will provide them with curriculum, provide them with training. We give these teachers a stipend and year-long professional development trainings, making sure that they're ready to go to take the urban arts curriculum into their classes.
That's perfect, because that's what I was thinking. You were talking about these hands-on approaches, and we're also talking about 50 states, and I'm thinking, how do you scale up that level of intimacy without losing it, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of organizations, not naming any names, but a lot of them, they're like, this is going great. How do we just blow this up? And they don't always realize some of these missions don't work that way, right? Or at least they can't work that way without some changes. But you're saying we teach them the principles and the day-to-day specifics, because how you're going to teach a student in rural Alabama is not going to be the same as how they're going to learn in Los Angeles.
Exactly. And how, not every state has AP computer science as a requirement.
Right. Yeah.
So you can't take what works somewhere and make it fit perfectly into, a square peg somewhere else.
Right.
And so we're just taking what we find are sort of our core principles here, going into infrastructure that already exists, and then letting it flourish from
How
there.
would you summarize those core principles? How much do you think we can whittle those down, We don't have to create like an on-the-fly acronym or anything. That's a little much, right?
So we teach computer science, coding, but also animation, music, and storytelling. And our core principle is that we teach game design, but we're also at the intersection of art and technology. And that's something that's core and very important to us, right? We don't want to be fully only on the technical side. We want to still continue to inspire that creativity and that art background, which is where we started as a nonprofit 30 years ago as a strictly art, performing arts, and then eventually a playwriting nonprofit. But then, to your point, shifted to where, the things were changing, offering our students more 21st century skills, but also still saying, trying to stay core to that.
I feel like that's where it's been headed. You don't really have people in the industry anymore who are just art.
Right.
They have to know how to hand the file off. They have to know what format it's got to be in. They can't just, I mentioned the crayons earlier, that's great as a starting point, but you can't just sketch something on a piece of paper and say, here you go, programmers, figure it out, chop it up into sprites or whatever. That's not what people want. And that intersection that you're talking about of art and tech, that is video games.
Exactly.
There's no line between the two. They're completely enmeshed and merged together, and that's kind of what's special about them. And we see it with, obviously, we talk about the level design here. We'll marvel at the level design, but 1 second later, it's like, here's the out-of-bounds skip that they didn't cover or did cover in some cases. And it's that melding, that jumping between two worlds and creating one world out of them that I think is amazing. And one thing I like about speedrunning, and I think it's one of the reasons we do speedrunning here at these events, we could be playing any games here to raise money, right? But it's speedrunning specifically. And I think of it because speedrunning highlights how hard making games is. When you think of how many things can go wrong, like these are the best developers in the world. And you're breaking their games, right? You're finding things they didn't think, oh man, we didn't put an out of bounds.
Another glitch.
We found another glitch. And this is hundreds of people who've been doing this for decades, right?
Yeah.
And there's still mistakes because there's so many moving parts. But I think your holistic approach addresses that a little bit, because it's not the artist is over here doing their thing, the programmer's over here doing their thing, and the music person's over here doing their thing. They're working as a team.
Everyone's working as a team together. Constructive criticism, communication. So right now I'm interviewing a lot of our alumni who are coming back to work for us, and we ask them, what are some of the things you learned at Urban Arts that really have stuck with you?
That's so good.
And the amount of them that say communication and teamwork.
Yes, that's what the students I interviewed yesterday said. They both emphasized that.
Taking in critical feedback and incorporating it into your own work. Not working siloed.
Yeah.
Respecting your teammates and earning their trust and earning their respect. And that's across the board what everyone says.
Well, it got through to them because that's what Mohammed said specifically yesterday. He was talking about communication. He was talking about how do I get instructions across if I'm kind of the boss in a certain scenario, but how do I do it respectfully? And he said I had trouble being assertive because there's this thing of I don't want to be mean, but also I have to make decisions. But that's what's hard about any kind of organizational structure is someone has to be in charge.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's what the younger students need the most.
Exactly, and that's why what's so important to us is, you graduate from Urban Arts learning all of these hard skills, but it's the soft skills too that are so important that, for anyone who's gone on to college and been like, oh wow, this is such an incredibly different environment, I don't know how prepared I am for this, but, bringing in communication, teamwork, project management, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Being able to handle yourself in a frenzied, stressful environment and come over the other side is not necessarily something that's taught in a traditional classroom.
No, it's almost like a home economics kind of thing. It's just like a day-to-day home economics, but for, I don't know, calling a bank or doing those little adulting
Balancing a
things.
checkbook.
Yes, those adulting things that people talk about that I would say this generation has a lot of strengths, but one of the things it's not so much is a lot of anxiety, right? Dealing with other people is a scarier thing, especially when you grow up interacting online primarily. And now you're thrust into this physical location, and they're all in the same room. And they've got to work it out, right? Because that's what it's going to be like. It's not all going to be remote for game design. There's the one-to-one, the face-to-face like this. There's nothing quite replaces it, does it?
No, and that's, again, so many of our students say they've met their best friends here.
Yeah. That's a good sign, man.
It's an inclusive environment. It's welcoming, and it's friendly. And whenever I hear that, I tear up a little bit.
Oh, of course. Well, what are some of the things about this program that have developed maybe? So maybe you're talking to the students about what did you learn, what was important to you, and they say things like communication, which I do think is the most important thing. What have you learned over the last few years that maybe you wish you'd known a little earlier that's obvious to you now? Because you mentioned this program started as heavy arts focused and it's shifted, so there's been a lot of learning on the fly, I imagine, as this thing has grown.
Yeah, I think you can't be an education nonprofit and stay stagnant, because education is always changing, and you have to stay ahead of the curve, whether it's new technologies or whether it's federal or state regulations, what's going on with the Department of Education right now. And so you always need to be adaptable, flexible. One thing that I think I wish we got a little bit ahead of the curve a few years ago on was AI.
I was just about to ask.
How that is going to be
example.
Developed, and we as artists want to approach it in an ethical and respectful way, while at the same time incorporating it so that our students don't fall behind. Because whether or not we like it, it's something that's here to stay. It's something we need to learn how to use, and it's something we need to learn how to use that in a way that respects artists, respects intellectual property, but then perhaps can change programs, make things more productive and efficient, and we'll see. It's something we're learning, but you can't just say, oh no, we don't want to get into that, we're going to shy away, especially if you're a tech nonprofit, right? Like you got to embrace it, you got to learn about it, and then see how that might change things.
Yeah. First of all, I do have to compliment this space because you mentioned being inclusive. That's obviously an attitude thing. That's an emotion thing, right? But it's not. It's also a physical space thing.
Yeah.
Has a lot of thought gone into this layout? Because it's little things like the little dividers between the desks are just high enough to give you some privacy, but not high enough that you're not making eye contact with the people across the way. Does that enhance the collaborative process?
Yeah. We do have a few like small conference centers, but really it's the space is not about closing yourself off from
Yeah.
others. It definitely enhances the collaborative process. I remember when I first started working here, I was not used to working in an open office
You're like, where's
environment
my cubicle? Or
because
whatever.
maybe what people don't know is not only is this where classes happen, but it's also where our everyday staff work as well. And what's so important to us is that I work in fundraising, but I interact with our students every time they're in the office. And some other organizations, their fundraising staff, their development staff, or their executive staff are removed from the day-to-day or from the mission.
Yeah.
But everyone here is involved in it every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. This is flat in a good sense.
Yeah.
The flat organizational structure. There's no like little pyramid where you're up here on the second floor and they're down here on the other floor. Everyone is just in the same spot.
I sit across from our CEO.
That's
I
great.
sit across from our operations manager. We all just
And then right over here, there's a
sharing
student,
space.
and here's the CEO,
Yeah.
and they're just like, yeah, we're just people
Exactly.
here.
We're just having a good time.
So we keep talking about the games these students are making. One of the points I like to make is that people complain about games being samey. They feel like every Call of Duty every year is exactly the
Right.
same, every Madden or whatever. And I say one of the ways you get different games is by getting different people in there. This is
Right.
where the diversity comes in, right? I know for a lot of people it's a buzzword. Sometimes it's a controversial buzzword. But just think of it like math, right? If the games are feeling too similar, you bring in new types of people with new types of experiences. That's how you get new types of art. You'll like some of it, you won't like others, but it'll be different. It'll be interesting. It'll challenge you, and you're going to find something you love there. Have you found that reflected in the work, that just the broader
Yeah.
range of life experiences has led to broader ranges of games?
100%. I mean, the game that was streamed yesterday from the Stickman studio, In a Mind, developed because one of the main people working on the game, one of our students, had a real interest in philosophy and this idea of the mind-body dualism.
Yeah.
And it came out of that academic interest.
Right.
And we have students who made games that came out of, I grew up in the Bronx and I grew up near the Cross Island Expressway, and it was noisy. And how do we redevelop communities that make it better for those of us who have to live there? And then we do these Minecraft game jams where people are starting to rethink their communities for the better, whether that's adding more solar panels or more public spaces and parks. Or one student said, let's put a line out the door of the mayor's office so everyone has a chance to talk to the mayor directly. That was one of our middle school students. But you find more and more that students are approaching games from what affected them in their life and what they want to see in a better world, whether that's living in a different neighborhood or having access to education or more green spaces, whatever it might be. But I think it's really interesting when you see someone so young and what their ideas are that they come up with, that they want to see and that they want to play.
Well, it's outsiders that help to affect change because they question things that we didn't think to question sometimes. Right. We just think this is just the way it is, this is the way it's been, and it's the outsider, the child sometimes. It's the child who says the emperor has no clothes, as I recall, right? Because they don't know any better, they don't feel that peer pressure. So you mentioned younger students. Are we going to go younger? You start earlier? Because Minecraft too, I know there's a lot of that going on, and it's almost like they say if you don't learn a language early in life, you'll never be fluent, right?
Exactly.
It's not quite the same for a programming language, but there's a lot of similarity there.
Yeah, we primarily work with high school students, but we just launched a middle school program called Creative Coders, where we work with Minecraft Education and use their platform to break into middle schools. And so it's similar with the way that we're scaling nationally. We're writing a curriculum that uses Minecraft Education. And the reason why we're using Minecraft Education, one, because it's Minecraft is one of the most popular games. Everyone plays it.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people may not know is that most public schools in the U.S. who have Microsoft Suite get a free Minecraft Education account.
Oh, wow.
And so it's something that is almost ubiquitous across the country in middle and high schools. And so it's a resource and a tool we were able to tap into and we were able to use. And it's been wildly successful, and that's going to be part of our scalable national expansion as well. So we're really excited to start getting to work with sort of the younger generation.
I think that's a good idea. If you ask young kids right now what they want to do when they grow up, it used to be like athlete, astronaut, right, whatever. Now it's like YouTuber. And nothing against present company. We have a lot of YouTubers here, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
But that's a tough grind. That's a tough life.
It is.
It's rough on your mental health sometimes. You got to find that balance. Only so many people can do it, right? And I think it would be good for a lot of those kids to not just say YouTuber, but say also maybe game design. Something that's not as much of a grind as that. It can be a grind, don't get me wrong, but it's not going away. Game design is a growing industry and has been for 30 straight years, I think. So this is a very pragmatic career path.
It is, but even if you don't see yourself at a AAA studio or an indie studio down the road, what's great about getting kids as early as possible into a game design track is that you're learning all these other transferable skills.
Yeah.
You're learning coding and programming, but animation, music, and storytelling, and project management, and
the communication you talked about.
The communication.
That's
if you're
global.
going, if you're going into making your own indie studio, right? You're learning how to put together a business plan, how to take out a bank loan, like doing all these things. You're preparing yourself for not just game design, but for a whole array of jobs. And we find our students, 98% of them go into STEAM career tracks, college and career tracks, but that includes healthcare, medicine, that includes engineering, right? There's so many things that you can do.
And you say STEAM. I know a lot of people are going, STEAM, that has a specific meaning in video games, but for you, that means something a little different. That's STEM plus arts?
STEM plus arts.
STEM plus arts.
Exactly.
It's a shame that giant storefront is in the way of your very clever acronym.
I know, yeah, we probably can't patent that.
No, probably. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't know how litigious Gabe is going to be, but don't do that.
Yeah,
we only have
no one show them the stream.
No, they're not watching. It's cool. We only have a couple of minutes left. I do want to hint on one little thing, which is that you've been doing this for a while. This is the program's been around a while, but this new version of the program is still kind of new. And we talk a lot about you're going to donate to a good cause, you're going to get some prizes, but in the future, you're going to get more games to play, different games, like I said, not samey. We're starting to get to that point where maybe some of them are graduating and you might at some point play, see, enjoy a game by or partially by an urban arts student.
Yeah.
We saw a game yesterday. It was a senior project, the one we saw last year, April rather. It feels like a year ago. Wow. I know. Lots happened since then. Was a little more nascent, but this one was closer. Like, I'm sure a few people saw that game yesterday and said, I wouldn't mind playing that.
Yeah.
At what point are people going to be able to do that and find that on some of these storefronts? Because I've heard that, that might be an option at some point soon.
So the game that you guys did look at yesterday, In a Mind, will be available on Google Play in the next month or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So that specifically was an intention where we're taking these games that were made by our students, and if our alumni are interested, helping them to continue to fund and work on it while they're in college and get it ready for upload. And so, next year we're going to be graduating 100 seniors. Well, actually, the end of this academic year, which is hard to think about. And so we're just going to see those number of games exponentially increase year after year, and hopefully, they'll be on Steam, they'll be on Google Play, they'll be wherever else you might be able to find them.
So maybe one of the next times we do a student showcase like this or something, we could say, and this is available right now if you want to go play it, perhaps.
Probably.
Probably. We're going to get there. Rich, this has been really, really illuminating, fascinating. You guys are doing unbelievable work here. What do you want to leave the viewers with here about your mission and their involvement in supporting it?
Yeah, I think for me and for a lot of folks who work here, one thing that they care deeply about is that a quality education should not depend on a child's zip code. Every child should have access to what we have going on here and what we offer, and all of your donations mean so much to us. Thank you so much. But your donations mean that we can offer these services to more and more and more students. So again, thank you all. Thank you for having me. And happy day 3.
Yeah, that zip code line in particular. Let's give a round of applause for that. Your education should not depend on your zip code. That's the one that stuck with me the first time I did a GSA event. That's when it clicked for me, and I'm so glad to be here years later. Thank you to everyone at Urban Arts and to Rich here for telling us about it. Don't go anywhere. Lots more speedrunning action coming back.